Hi, welcome to Real Talk with Artists. This is your host, Cristina Trujillo. I have with me an extraordinary woman, Vanita Lee-Tatum. She is a businesswoman, she's an artist, an entrepreneur, and I'm so happy to have her here with me today. And she's also my friend. Thank you, Vanita, for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Christina.
It
Pleasure
is
to be here.
Oh my goodness, it is always my complete honor and pleasure to have you with me and to be able to co-collaborate on projects. So thank you for being with me today. Um, Quick question, Vanita. I know today is election day. Everyone's their nerves are all high, and we're all feeling some type of anxiety, and this whole year, right, has been, really hard for all of us. But question for you, Vanita, what is your go-to sort of exercise to get calm and grounded when we're feeling a little anxious?
Wow, yeah, that's a really great question. And I have been feeling a lot of anxiety lately. And I'm trying my best to just be still in those moments.
Mhm.
And they happen often. Today, I went out for a morning hike with my husband and the baby. And, that was really meditative for me, really healing. I needed that. I just needed to feel like I was doing something that was part of my wellness, even if I'm not feeling so great. It's a way to take my mind off of anything else that could be going on in the moment.
Mhm.
Um, just seeing the sights in the neighborhood, laughing, talking, breaking a sweat, and coming back and feeling like, okay, now I can recalibrate and, just continue to exist at a higher frequency and not allow the negativity to just keep me down.
Right. And I love that. I love that higher frequency, like you mentioned, right, to just rise above the collective consciousness of anxiety and fear
Yes.
by doing things with your family, right? That is very intentional and it's really important. Thanks for sharing. I asked this even before I get into introducing you, right? Because I just wanted to kind of bring us in the here and the now, as we were like rushing to get here as well. And I just like, okay, let's take a deep breath. We're here right now. We're so blessed to be here and to be together and have this opportunity
Definitely.
to
Yes.
once again be able to like talk with one another and collaborate. And so let's get deeper into like who Vanita Lee-Tatum is, y'all. Like this is someone that it just brings me such great pleasure to be able to have on the show today because everyone should know Vanita. Vanita, tell us a little bit about yourself. If you're on Instagram, you're able to see this beautiful portrait that I have of Vanita, and I love it. It says so much about her. But if you're joining us from through the other platforms, you get to see Vanita right now in the live. So Vanita, please let us know like just a little bit of well, anything you'd like for us to know about you.
For sure. So, I am a visual artist. I'm an educator, an entrepreneurship educator, and a business developer. I started this journey, my artistic journey, about 4 years ago when I experienced corporate burnout. I was a business banker and had reached the VP level in my career when I just realized I was unfulfilled. I was going at a very high level, very high voltage, a little rest and lots of work, and I was enjoying what I was doing. But then when I started to feel this deep level of dissatisfaction, it led me to figure out like what was I really truly passionate about. I knew that I was passionate about business. I did not know that I was an artist, and I focused on personal healing, and art became that space for me to. It still is. It truly is. Like right now, I'm here as the artist, Vanita,
Mhm.
meaning I just wasn't feeling amazing today, and wanted to still show up for myself and be here and just let all the expectations fall aside. And being an artist gives me that ability. I don't have to be perfect every moment. And when you have an ego as big as mine, that is difficult because you strive for perfection, especially as a woman, achieving standards, the beauty standards. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a career woman. Um, with all these levels of responsibility, there's expectation. And many times the expectation is from the outside, but we internalize it. And so I've been giving myself space to just be. Like, I'm still showing up, I'm still doing whatever. If I'm at 100% or if I'm at 30%, and when I'm lower in terms of what I can put out, I'm kinder to myself. Because I know it's just a cycle. I know that once rested and restored and recovered from whatever I'm going through, I have a newborn baby. So I've been recovering from this physical experience along with COVID
Right.
and trying to just restore myself, mind, body, and spirit and business. Um,
Sure.
yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And so you mentioned that you come from the business sector, right? And you became, I think you've always been an artist, but you discover your gift for art.
Yes.
About what time was that in your career, and when was that?
It was at the very height of my career. It was when I reached a point and where I felt that I achieved everything I set out to achieve in my business banking career, and I still felt unfulfilled. All the boxes were checked.
Yeah.
I was making the money, I had the exposure and the access, and it was hard to get up in the morning and show up fully for that after a time. After I realized that I was being compartmentalized, I wasn't really able to express myself creatively the way that I just needed to and desired. Um, and then I didn't realize that I could do both. I didn't realize I could be a business person and an artist. And when I figured that out, that's what really led me here today.
I love that. And what was maybe the magic of figuring it out, or I don't know what the proper word is, like what was that one thing that helped you figure out um, your gift, your innate gift that you
Yeah.
have within?
Well, I realize that business is something that I obsess about. I love it, and I'm into it every day.
Mhm.
And so it wasn't just that I need to leave my career and leave that behind. I needed to find a way to bring it forward. Make sure that the things I'm doing are aligned with my values, and also be able to be in a space where if I want to do something funky, I can. Like, be able to make mistakes, and art allows me to do that.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurship started to emerge. I had the background of working with businesses and having an entrepreneurial spirit myself, and becoming an artist. It just all came together. And now I'm in this entrepreneurship space. So I work with high school students, I work with adults, I work with creative entrepreneurs, women of color, entrepreneurs who are in the startup phase, who want to essentially learn how to develop, launch, and grow their business ideas. And I come at it from a place of encouraging my students and my clients to pursue their passion. Like, figure out, like, what could that possibly be like, and start with that, as opposed to what we think we should do, what we were told we should do, what we think might work. Really just truly doing it from a personal perspective of, this is what I enjoy and I want to learn more about. I want to see how far I can go with this. Um, and being open to gifts, to gifts from life, because I had no idea that I would emerge as an artist, but it felt so good once I did, and I actually claimed that identity.
Mhm.
Um, it wasn't given to me before. I had a business background, no formal art education. I had taken classes. I had been in the art scene locally in Oakland, in Hayward, in the Bay, but hadn't really claimed that for myself. And once I did, I was able to make that connection. So it's all about, defining ourselves, and being willing to understand more about who we are. Maybe we don't know fully yet, you
Right.
know. And if it's something that we want to shift, not to fight against it, but to release it, and to give ourselves space to grow.
Yes, absolutely. That is so important. And so tell us a little bit more about Vanita, the artist. What is your medium for art?
So so far, I've been focused on the visual arts, essentially painting has been my first love as an artist. The first time I painted, I just had an urge, didn't know what to do. I just went and bought some supplies and started throwing around some paint, and it just felt right. Like I could feel it in my mouth. Like it just, I don't, it's a weird feeling. I
Wow.
felt satisfaction
Okay.
through making this mess and letting this beauty come together right before my eyes without any expectation, without any, no one telling me this is how it's done. I didn't want to know. I just wanted to do what I felt, you know? And from there, I've been exploring mixed media. Um, and I've been playing around with reimagining some of the figures that really inspire me. Frida Kahlo, women of the Black Power movement. I most recently focused on um, exploring and trying to channel that empowerment and that message and that feeling of overcoming and fighting injustice within my own life. Um, I use a lot lately. I've been tearing through like magazine clippings and like not like collage work. It's
Uh-huh.
uh, I learned this in my daughter's middle school art class, painting with scissors, where you clip and cut images and words and you make these eclectic designs. And I've been playing around with that randomly, and the messages that are coming up are around blackness, me me understanding and claiming and reclaiming my identity as a Afro Latina, having been disconnected with that experience and trying to understand how that applies. That's from my mother side of the she my mother, she's passed on, but she was deeply desiring in her life to connect with her multicultural heritage. And that was something that really wasn't available for us. And as I grow, I feel like that part of my identity is just calling for me to understand more. I think that's like one of the keys to unlock the trueness of my soul.
Yes,
'Cause I know parts of myself, but I want to know more parts of myself.
absolutely.
Um, and yeah, and so the other things that are emerging are women's empowerment through the voice, using our voice to speak up about our experience, um, not just to say the things that people think that we should say or that makes others feel comfortable or that makes us feel comfortable, but speaking our truth, whatever that truth may be. And this year, I was adamant about developing my voice as an artist, which is still forming. And I'm giving myself time and space to do it. Having conversations like this, talking about life experience and the work is helping to do so. And my ultimate goal is to just touch someone else's life on their path, like inspire them, be real about it. This is a space where I can really truly be real and be whatever I want to be. I remember when I had my art debut, my very first show back in last year, 2019. I wore like a ball gown to the event because that is how I wanted to be seen, and just being intentional and purposeful about what we want to project, and then also not being stuck in one in like one category of what we want to be, being able to be dynamic and diverse and change our minds if we feel like we want to do so.
That is so beautiful, and it's like so many layers upon layers, and I can see you as an artist as you're painting or working on different pieces, as you mentioned, multimedia. I can really see you sort of in that space and in that space of filled with serenity, because early on you mentioned that you have a big ego, right? And then, but then I hear you speak so eloquently and beautifully about the process of art and how it allows you to channel different energies, like different feelings and emotions, where it's more so aligned with letting go, right? And that
Oh,
serenity that we feel
yes,
when we let go of the
yes,
expectation. And it's almost like you went from, this rigid as a businesswoman, right, where I know, since I know I know you personally, I can say that I know that you've traveled a lot, you were earning great money, right, you've accomplished a lot, at a very young age, and yet, you felt like that wasn't enough, right? The money wasn't enough. The travel wasn't enough. What you were doing wasn't quite enough because there was still something within you that needed to be unraveled, right? And discovered. And it's so beautiful to see that, right? Because we live in a world of duality, right?
yes.
We're even within our inner world, we're constantly dealing with duality, with the ego versus peace and letting go. And even, I was even as we were preparing to come right onto this simul stream, we had to kind of let go and be like, oh, it's going to be okay. It's going to come on just at the right time. So that's really wonderful to hear that you're doing that, and that art has been a source of healing for you. So can you tell us a little bit more about art and how you've used it and how people can use it, as a source of healing?
Oh, yes. For me, art just became a space where I could just be alone with myself, just all my parts, just kind of lay out my process, whatever I do or don't want to do without any feedback from anything outside of myself.
Right.
Um, when I was going through transition in my career, I had a clear idea of what I didn't want to do, but I was trying to figure out exactly, well, what do I do? You know, what else do I do after I spent all these years developing my craft? And that causes anxiety within itself because there's a pressure, I would say, not just from others, but from myself to be successful and trying to figure out, okay, another alternative, and going down a path that's not clear. So when things like I do art, and my best work comes through when I'm in a space of high emotion,
Mhm.
like um, when I feel like I can't do anything else, but I can do this. Like I can't fucking like make whatever's work I need to work, but I
Yeah.
can't paint. I
Yeah.
can throw it all down right here and lose myself in the process. And then when I come back up, that issue is probably resolved because I was able to step away and step out of it. And then guess what? Maybe a cool piece of work emerged, from that process. And I talk to a lot of people. Everyone's creative. I talk to a lot of people who are professionals, like friends, industry friends, who also have those creative talents or desires. And it's been cool to just share the process. Like, do what you do. Just, you already know what to do, or if you don't, you'll learn. Just give yourself a chance. Give yourself the time and the space that you need, and let it go. Like, just see what could happen. Dream a little bit. Then I started dreaming. Once I realized people were responding to my work, and
Mhm.
I, of course, have sold lots of artwork. But for me, it's about the opportunity to share my experience with others. Like, that's why I do it. I'm not doing it for the sales. I've been fortunate that people like my work, and when they don't, they probably don't. But I think it's the story
Mhm.
behind it, finding a connection with what we're doing and why. That's what makes it so important. You know what I mean? That's what makes it so relevant, to others. So for people who are out there who want to either revisit or rediscover or explore their creativity, I would just say, just start, like, with no rules, no expectation. Like, whatever you would do, just do that first. Then
Okay.
go back. You know what I mean? And allow ourselves, to be fluid and let that process unfold.
Right.
That's the best experience for me. I'm not burdened to be pumping out X amount of paintings per week. I couldn't do it. It doesn't work. It would kill the joy. if I
Right.
put that type of expectation on myself.
Mhm.
But I know when I'm hurting or when I need to understand some scary things that are going on in my subconsciousness, when I need to deal with an experience that I can talk about, when I'm feeling fancy or excited and I want to channel whatever I want, whatever I feel, whatever I want to do, that's a space, a sacred space um, that I can go to, and that's my work. You do have to be brave to share. You know what I mean? It's hard
Absolutely.
to share things when we're so focused on being perfect. I mention that a lot just because I've struggled with it a lot and have been trying to shed that mindset, not the mindset of excellence and doing great things and being great, doing my best. And when I make mistakes, owning it or trying to like recover or correct. Not that. It's just getting to a place where you have absolute freedom, whatever that freedom means, and you can gauge that freedom by how you feel. Our emotions tell us everything we need to know. I've been learning more about that past couple of years, and that has been how I gauge things. And I can be that way in the art space, you know?
I love that so much. So, and then that is very important, right? Because I want to touch on something else that you mentioned, and I'm making the connection here because you mentioned that you're now recently like also exploring your heritage. Did I hear correctly? Afro Latina, right? And your culture, and you're experiencing that, and you're discovering that through your art, which I think is it's imperative that we do that right within ourselves, and then really understand our various rich culture, and even those that are hidden. God knows I have I still don't even have information of my great grandparents, so I have a lot yet to explore myself. And with that, it's in, as I mentioned, it's like this unlayering upon unlayering, because we truly, I feel like, from the day that we're born, right, we're so inculcated, it's like we get taught so many different things by, our caregivers, right? And it's like, and so it's almost like having to rediscover like who we truly are without the inculcation, with what was fed to
It's
us.
so
But
challenging.
yeah, because and then I was having this discussion with my son, because he had mentioned to me that, we were talking about sort of like this existentialism of, or even this form of thought, right? Like that we essentially behave in such a way, but then if we pull back, we question ourselves whether the behavior is good or whether the behavior is questionable, right? We have to kind of push back, or sit back and look at that behavior from the outside looking in, to see
Yes.
where is that behavior coming from. Because
Hmm.
even that good behavior, even where like, oh, we act very nice or very kind, where is that coming from, right? Or if we have fear, where is that really coming from, right? So what I'm hearing is that when you're in the space of art, and when anyone you're recommending and
Yeah.
encouraging everyone to essentially get into that free flowing space and see what comes up, because as you're creating, you're able to even explore what is in your subconscious mind, right? Those
Totally.
perceived scary parts.
Ooh, I like that you said perceived,
Right.
right? Because I've been focused on healing my subconscious mind because that's where that's the source, of what I believe and the things that show up in my life. They come from there, but I've been seeing them as, oh, it's subconscious, which means I don't fully understand it, which means that that's scary, because I don't have the fullness of that, or maybe it's deep buried and there's some darkness there, and I'm trying to light that space up. And the perception of it, as you mentioned, is so important, like to have the right perception or whatever it may be, just being willing to say this is part of my experience, and if you choose that you want to heal that, to be adamantly focused on it. And it doesn't happen overnight. Like I was telling my husband over the weekend, some of the stuff I'm working through, I wish it could just be done,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really happen that way. It's taking a commitment from me. It's taking me to really give in, and be willing to experience weakness. Like
Mhm.
I grew up in a mentality of being a strong woman, you know, and I take pride in that. And I have had strong women modeled around me, you know, in my
Yeah.
life. But being able to be vulnerable or
Mhm.
perceivably weak, just kind of like giving up. Like I don't have to bear this to be strong. That doesn't equate to my strength, or my value isn't in all of that. You know, like stepping outside of it
Absolutely.
in a sense, and still knowing that I am a bold and strong, courageous woman. Obviously, I'm doing this, but I'm human also. You know, I'm a person. I have the right, you know, to require like I want to say like some ease. You know, it's not all about
Absolutely.
heavy lifting. It's not
Oh,
all about and
right.
that's what I've been accustomed to, heavy lifting, ready to roll my sleeves up and get it. And it's like
Mhm.
at any level or anything, and that translates to so many areas of my life. And now I'm just kind of like ready for to be in the flow of ease and let the healing flow and everything else that I need along with it.
I love that so much because it's also, again, that unpacking, right, of perceptions, right? Because even the word like weak, and I feel like I'm also going through that, through those same sort of, through that same journey where I have to question even my language, right? So whereas, I feel like even as women of color, right, we're constantly told you have to, well, like you mentioned, roll up your sleeves, work hard, right? And when we need a timeout, when we need to grieve something, whether it's a dream that didn't come true, or a relationship that ended, friendships, whatever type of relationship,
Mm-hmm.
we don't allow ourselves because we call that weak.
Yes,
If you have to stay in bed for the entire day because you just don't have any energy to get
I
up,
can't do it. You know,
you know, it's
I
like,
need to
but we
recalibrate.
consider that weak or lazy, and these loaded words, right? And I feel like these loaded words have been so ingrained within our communities, right? And it's like, but where do they come from?
Yes,
And
where
what
did
is
they
the
come
true
from?
meaning of being lazy, right? And being able to really unpack that and explore that. And what would it mean if we didn't have to worry about where our next paycheck came from, and seriously having just the freedom to create however our spirit wants to create, and allowing that to flourish, right? If we didn't have to worry about having to produce, right? How many, like you mentioned, you don't set an expectation for your art, right? It comes naturally for you, and that's a beautiful thing, and it's really important. What are some, maybe 3 tips that you can give folks about setting aside time, right, for that level of exploration, that level of self love and
Mhm.
commitment, right, with yourself? How can someone go from being on that sort of, that spinning mouse wheel, whatever you want to call it, right, that rat race, to changing slowly some habits to start really harnessing, or getting into that healing process within through art, right? What are maybe some three steps that people can start to take?
Um, First step is to,
Hello, Vanita, I can't
yeah,
hear you.
you can't hear me? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello,
Yeah, I'm
can
not
you hear?
sure what's happening. I can hear you pretty well.
Okay, I had to raise my volume. Oh,
Okay.
okay. I raised my volume on my laptop. Let me know if you hear any echo.
I did the same and I don't hear any echo. And I hope
Okay,
that people
perfect.
can hear us on Instagram. Tay, can you hear
Okay.
us? I see he's there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Can if
one of the
friends on Instagram, can you let us know if you can hear Vanita on Instagram?
can you guys hear me? Okay.
But you were able to hear me, right, Vanita?
I hear you from
Yeah.
the laptop.
So we can, I'll just maybe we can continue because we'll have like the audio and everything else. The I think the audio will definitely come back on Instagram, but at least we'll have it on the other channels.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll
Um,
come back to them.
so,
Yeah.
well, I really appreciate that you asked that question. Like the tips or 3 steps. I think one of the first steps would be to like give yourself a hug, like acknowledgement or
Mhm.
compassion for just being in that space,
Yeah,
where you would need to determine what you can do to improve your experience going forward and realizing that, wow, I'm at the start of something great. Even without all the information
mhm.
in place as we take the first step, because it is a journey,
Like,
and us being willing to go on the journey and
mhm.
take it and know that it actually will become a way of life as opposed to like we're doing this for this period of time to get through this is actually ongoing,
It's
and it
all
becomes a way of living and thinking and being. And then I would say be celebratory about it.
okay.
Like I talk about it so much because I just want people to know, like, I don't know what you thought, but
Mhm.
this is what it is. I like to
Mhm.
be able to tell my own story.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important to be celebratory about it, about our challenges and triumphs.
Mhm.
Um, right? My husband this morning, we were talking about like the hero story.
Oh,
He was reminding me of how the hero
yes.
is always the one that takes the L, that suffers, but is always the one
Mhm.
that has the glory and wins. And that's kind of where
Mhm.
I'm at, because I feel like I'm coming through a space in my life where I'm really truly fighting to get to my next level of self. But then he was reminding me I'm there. So we have to remember that we are there, and that's hard because I'm like, no, I'm not there. Like I'm on my way, I'm far from my goals, but
Mhm.
existing in the space in our minds will
Mhm.
actually transform the experience that we're having. And so that was a great reminder, and I would encourage others to keep that in mind as well. um,
Yes.
and that if you're called, to live this life in the light, to embrace it, and
Absolutely.
even though you may have suffered for it, be
Yeah.
willing to receive the gifts that come with it as well.
Oh, that is so powerful. Yes, and in terms of the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell. Oh my goodness, I thought of so many things when you mentioned that. First
Oh
of all, like,
wow, yes,
I love how you have your husband there, your life partner to be able to remind you, right? To be
yes.
able to see that light in you and say, hey, this is you're there. Like
It's
you
it's truly
exactly.
amazing. Yeah,
That is so
partnership is important.
beautiful.
It's important to have people close to you that can love and support you on the journey and not just like tear you down. And
Absolutely.
not that you have to compete with or show up for in a certain
Mhm.
way that's other than what you are, you know? And that's really
Absolutely.
rare. And I've been really trying to seek out and intentionally cultivate those types of relationships in my life.
That's great.
Um, and it's for someone who's like highly social and used to having a crew and a lot of friends and all that, it's
Mhm.
really challenging when you grow to that space because everyone does not exist at that level with you when you're on it. And
Right.
and sometimes you may walk alone, but also life is so good. There'll always be gifts and our desires
Mhm.
come to us. And my desire is to have meaningful, loving relationships with people that I can trust, that bring me joy, that I can bring joy, and we can mutually support one another through love at every level, whether it's
Mhm.
even a business connection and relationship down to personal and beyond, spiritual. But those connections and that support is critical in
It
whatever way it
is.
comes.
Absolutely, and I think it's okay. Let me know if you agree or not, but in that journey, and when we're that intentional about our tribe, because it's like it is. I'm thinking about The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and she
Mhm.
talks about when you're all, yeah, first and foremost, we're all here, we're all creators, right? We're all creative, even if even if we're like an accountant, even an accountant or a lawyer.
Yes.
We all need a form, or we all have to be creative in so many different aspects of our lives, right? It doesn't have to just be through these, what we call these mediums of art. And so, she mentions that we all need our tribe, right? Especially as we're discovering or rediscovering, our
Yeah.
form of art. And but that tribe doesn't necessarily mean that it's big, right? Those
Wow.
people that we can really vibe at that frequency, right? That we can really trust with the manifestations of our early art,
Wow.
to hold that space for us and with compassion and integrity, right? And with honesty. That's not that is actually it can be rare, right? And so
Absolutely. It is.
it's rare, and so it's okay. It's okay to not have to have like 100 supporters or 100 people in our tribe. That doesn't come. I think it's okay to have to find our people that are really going to nourish us, and help to cultivate the real truth in us, right? After
Oh my
we're like
gosh.
done unpacking
Yes.
everything that was fed to us,
That's
right?
a true gift,
Yeah,
and I think that's one of the signs that you're on the right path when
yeah.
those things start to shift, and it's very uncomfortable at
It
first, but then you realize you were already uncomfortable. And it's
It's like,
time
which
to
one do you
actually
want?
change. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always going to be uncomfortable, but which of the forms of uncomfortability do you want, right?
For sure. Like the discomfort of letting that fall away and
Yeah,
embracing something that's new,
yeah,
change.
absolutely.
It's just change.
It's change, and right. So it's like I feel that there are two levels of being uncomfortable. One is we're feeling uncomfortable because we're stagnant, and our body knows it,
Yes.
right? We're just these like we're like half asleep half awake during our day, and we're just living in a ritual. Wake up at a certain time,
Oh
go to
gosh, that's
work at a
the worst.
certain time, have your cup of tea at a certain time, do that work, essentially work for somebody else's dream, right? Paper push, right? And then eat dinner at a
Oh,
certain
the
time, go
agony.
to bed at a certain time. So I think that our
So
spirit
hard.
feels, right? Our spirit like feels uncomfortable because it's like sensing the stagnation, right?
Okay.
And then we have the other feeling of uncomfortable because we're pushing ourselves and we're challenging ourselves. And my
Yeah.
son always says to me, Ma, whenever you feel pain, that's weakness leaving your body. And he always says that to me. He got that from a friend, a quote. I think
I
it's a
like
very
that.
well-known quote for people in fitness. And he's like, it's okay to feel pain. So my thing has never been, I don't want to feel uncomfortable. I've always felt uncomfortable. My thing was trying to avoid pain. And
Okay.
now I'm trying to lean towards being okay because it's a part of human experience.
Wow. That's
Right?
that. Yeah, it is. It's so much a part of it, and none of us want that. We all do that in different ways. But I think I love that quote and what he said. It's
Yeah.
very empowering, and for me, hearing it reduces the amount of fear because it's like, oh, okay, it's purposeful, and I'm gonna get through whatever that may be and
Yes,
come out
that's
stronger.
perfect timing because one of the things that I know that you're really good at is overcoming fear. And so tell us about your ways of overcoming fear and then what others like what you recommend for others, other,
Wow.
yeah, to practice on or tips.
I mean, it's again, it's like maybe a spiritual practice or something that becomes more of a way of life than just that one time we did it because
Yeah,
there's so many opportunities and then there's so many things that we can be fearful about. And first of all, just realizing and recognizing when it comes up and just noting, like, ooh, I feel that. I see how I respond or how I feel, how that impacts me.
yeah,
Just to air it out, like let it be visible.
yeah,
Um, and then understanding that it doesn't have to define you or the situation. It's something that may be present, but we don't have to let it take the lead. You
Yeah.
know, my therapist gave me a really great way to think about it, in terms of like fear being like a voice at the round table. And it's not the only voice. And sometimes when fear is in control, all the other voices are silent.
Mhm.
So everyone else, all the voice of joy, hope, peace, love, healing, protection, strength, like clarity, anything else is silenced, in the midst of fear. So when fear has the floor, everything else is on lockdown. And so we need to actually understand how that works. We know what that feels like, the anxiety that it brings, but we can actually take the floor and determine
Mhm.
the voice, that we want to project and the voice that we want to be heard, first within ourselves. So, affirmation, self talk is really important. Noticing when we're berating ourselves, like the messages that we're sending to ourselves, it can be like a storm in the mind. And when we step away from a lot of distractions, those voices become louder and louder. It's like you have to face yourself. That's what I had to do. I had to face myself. And I realized it's not just what's going on out there. A lot of this is happening right inside. In fact, all of it is. And that's the source that needs to be, nurtured and healed. So overcoming fear, recognizing it doesn't have to be, it's not the only voice.
Mhm.
And then I mentioned earlier the importance of developing our own voice and replacing that and consistently doing it as a practice. We might succeed at it today, and then tomorrow a new experience comes up, a new situation, and caught us off guard. We're back in fear, and it's okay. It's like we can recognize it all over again and put what we know into practice, and also
Mhm.
be gentle with ourselves because maybe we've been living in fear for such a long time
Yeah.
that it's difficult to recognize it. Maybe we've become comfortable with fear, and that's our um solace, like our we that's our I can't think of a word, shelter, like
Yeah.
our refuge. Fear becomes
Mhm.
our refuge. There we go.
Oh, yes.
You know, we run to fear, we hold on to it because we know it so well, but
Mm.
understanding that, and it's like being in like an abusive relationship where you just have to be willing to let that go, and walk away even though you're scared
Mhm.
that you're going to lose your life. I only
Mhm.
know that because I've had that happen in my life before, where I had to escape, um, and choose to live, and at any cost. And
Wow.
that's a scary thing to do. We can stay in fear and compromise, or we can
Mhm.
escape and break free. And in my life, that's been a theme, just breaking free. And I'm
Mhm.
constantly doing that and going through, even currently going through challenges within the self, because myself is hatching and changing to a new level. And that's that discomfort you talked about. But I know this is necessary because I have big goals, and it's only one way for me to get there. And I have to actually go forward, or for us to get there.
Absolutely. Wow, that's so powerful. You helped me to also, you mentioned something like you have experienced, like it sounded like you've experienced that level of fear that comes from your safety, right? And you knew that you had to break free from that, like physically, right?
Yes.
And then now you're at a space where your safety, your physical safety is not compromised. You have moved on from those types of experiences, but now you're now having to go within
Mm-hmm.
and face the, face those fears within, question them.
That's
You also, gosh, you mentioned something really deep as well. Like, I think like not compromising, right? And break and really escaping,
mhm,
from that and breaking free
mhm.
from the fears from within. And as again, I can really resonate with that, as having also I personally survived domestic violence, and I had to escape, right? I had to seek shelter at a women's battered shelter with my infant. And now I look at my life at 42 and I'm like, whoa, like I'm safe. My son is safe. He's a young adult now, and we're safe. But yet it's now the journey is now inner, right? Now it's like
Yeah, it
going
is.
within.
It is.
It's like it never ends, right? I mean,
Oh
it's
my
not.
gosh.
The good news, and I tell myself, like, the good news is, you mentioned it's so good, it's important to have affirmations. Absolutely. I
Mhm.
also love practicing mirror work. Or, have you
Yeah,
seen Insecure on HBO with Issa Rae? She does mirror
yeah,
work all the time,
she does.
So I do that too. And at first, it's really, really hard to do it without crying, and everything. But now it's fun, Now it's like, okay, let me go do some mirror work. And anyway, that's my go-to. But but I have to, in my mirror work, I have to tell myself, baby girl, you got this. Like,
Ooh,
look at where you came from. Look at what you survived. Like, you survived the most harshest of environments
yeah,
physically,
yeah.
and now you're safe, baby. And that's what I tell myself every time. You're safe.
Hmm.
You're safe.
Hmm.
You're secure and you're safe. And that is such an important positive affirmation for me. And I think that
Wow, it
makes me
is.
right. And I think for many women, I mean, women, especially women of color, like, I feel it's hard to go through this journey without having experienced some type of trauma, right?
Mhm.
So
It's wow. As you're speaking, I just literally kind of got teary eyed because of your willingness to be vulnerable to share your experience. And that's not something that many people are willing to do. And also, it's like another Me Too moment. Like, Me Too, actually, I have been through that. And I've been trying to find the courage to talk about it more often, the way you just did, because it really did happen. And it's something that's true. And then that message of safety,
mm,
that beauty
yes.
that comes along with that. And yes, for women, and especially women of color, we've had to overcome and constantly overcome so much. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely mentioned. We do. And one of the things that I believe that about you is that you're so captivating. Like, I always say to Vanita, you need to have your own show on TV. Yeah, I always push you because it's like you're so captivating, because and you know you radiate so much goodness and so much light, and also your voice, and that theme came up to definitely today. And you have such a strong voice, and it's eloquent, and it's just like, and you're so intelligent. And so when it comes to using our voice, what are your recommendations of can we use our voice, right, after really practicing, the wonderful tips that you just gave us? How can we use our voice effectively in these times? And then,
yes. Um, so there's a quote by Bell Hooks that is, "Your silence doesn't protect you."
mm,
And I've thought about this over the years since I first heard it. And in the times where I feel like I'm afraid to speak up, that's my opportunity to use my voice, for the empowerment of myself or for others. Um, Knowing that your voice is unique and that you have value is really truly important. And that
mm,
you have something special that you can contribute. You have something that you can
yeah,
bring forth to help others overcome whatever it is that they need to overcome by sharing your journey. I think being authentic is important. Like, I try to relax when it's time for me to share my voice, because I used to get caught up in trying to say things the right way, and then I would be haunted by, oh my God, what did I say afterwards? It was just like this exhausting process. Um, Being authentic, allowing yourself to be yourself, just whatever it is that you feel, being willing to articulate it and express it. Um, in a professional setting, always being direct, respectful, and professional with voicing whatever it is, but always coming from a place of like realness or truth, um, and being willing to stand firm on what it is that you have to say. Like, you don't have to recant, even if you get some pushback or feedback, whatever it is, like, you can actually stand on that voice. And that's something I've been practicing. Again, another ongoing practice. Um, and platforms like this, we have the opportunity to authentically share our voices, and also be willing to listen to others as we want to be heard. Um, Lend our ear to hear as well and reciprocate that, because sometimes it's very empowering to use our voice, and it's powerful, right? So we have to share in that equity with our communities.
Oh, I love that, sharing that equity within our community. That is so important. And in fact, within one thing that I've experienced is that even in the Bay Area, folks are now more emboldened to express their racist views, right? They're more
Yeah,
emboldened now to come out and, belittle you, whether it's in a professional setting, whether it's outside of the community. People just feel really emboldened now and I think that the blessing to that, and I credit my best friend Brandy Weintraub. She says, you know what, at least they're showing you their true colors, right? And
I'll
that's important, right? They're not
always
hiding who
appreciate
they
it.
how they what they feel or who they really are.
Yes,
And now when folks feel so emboldened, and it's good that they're showing us who they truly are, right? They feel, I think, protected, and they feel good that millions of people are racist like them. For me, one thing I've discovered within myself this year is that I'm not holding back,
yeah,
because I know that if I voice and I speak, and I speak truth to this type of level of fear, I know I'm not just helping myself. I know I'm also helping all of us, all of our entire community, right? And I think that some folks just really they're struggling right now too with their own identity. If
yeah,
they're white Caucasian, they're struggling with white fragility, and so that fear of losing that power maybe in society, then they're now projecting all this stuff on us. But it has really forced me to speak up more so now than I've ever have
yes.
before.
I hear that, and I think a lot of people are finding that courage, because it's just time. It's time to
Yeah.
be seen, to be heard. It's time to stand for something. It's time to stand for justice. It's time to continue fighting and continuing the struggle that those that came before us took on. We're in a different time, but we have issues that we need to see changed, and we have to figure out our role in that process. For me, it's been through working with young entrepreneurs, understanding how I can help them understand how to create wealth and financial growth within their communities and change the outcome for the future. Um, Using my voice effectively to teach is something that I know that I can do. Um, and here we are on election day,
Yeah.
right? It boils down to this, and it is important for us to understand the power and the impact that we make through contributing our individual selves, through our voices, through our vote, whatever that may be, through our social platforms, in whichever way we can get that our message across, and determining what is that message that we want to spread. You know what I mean? It's We're in an exciting time right now. Although we've endured great challenges, this is part of that shift, and that's required for us to really see real change.
Right.
A lot of my students have expressed a lot of anxiety, fear, uncertainty surrounding the elections, and they're young people watching this process unfold, and they're afraid. They're afraid for their lives. People who are essentially, I'm thinking so many things all at once, but
Yeah.
anyone who's not at the top of the totem pole in terms of the patriarchy is
Mhm.
impacted. You
Right.
know, so yeah, it's time to step up. Use that
Mhm.
voice and be heard.
Yeah, it's another election day, so we can use our voice as well by casting that vote. And we already did that. I got to do that with my young man today who voted in his first national election.
Wow,
Yeah, I'm so proud.
that's
I'm so
incredible.
proud. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a wonderful feeling at the same time. Yes, it's obviously a lot of fear.
Hmm.
I wish that things were different for him, and all our young people, right? But climate change is a big deal for him and a lot of young people, right? And that's
Absolutely.
that's really impairing their hopes for the future. And that's, now they have to think about, is it even feasible for me to even think that one day I'm going to be able to get married and have children? Because what type of world will my children live in? And that's, as a mother, to hear that is a pain. That's a deep pain in my heart.
For sure.
So he definitely voted with, with that in mind, and all the other the values that we hold in mind as well. Thank you so much, Vanita. We only have a few more minutes. And so what I would love to do now is, you mentioned that you help entrepreneurs and you help them succeed in their business goals. And so how can folks reach you if they want to, if they want to solicit your services and your partnership?
Definitely. So I'm on all social media platforms at Vanita Lee-Tatum. My website, vanitaleetatum.com. Please reach out. I would love to connect.
I love it. Thank you so much. And then here's on the other platforms I'm just mentioning. So it's all Vanita Lee-Tatum. Honestly, if you Google Vanita Lee-Tatum, it's gonna all pop up.
Awesome. Yeah.
And you are there, and I love it. You're the first one that pops up on the Google search, and
Great.
you'll be able to see, all these other platforms where Vanita has been a guest speaker. People love Vanita, so I know you're getting invitations, and it's just people know why. It's like you're just such a light and an incredible joy to be around. Vanita, very quickly, for what the art that's in the background of you, is that your art?
Yes.
Oh, that's so pretty. Let us see.
I have a few pieces that are right behind me.
Okay.
It's kind of.
I love how all the pieces blend together.
They do. Some of them I did as a series. It's kind of tough for me. I have my laptop.
Okay,
but I'm in my home space, and I have a lot of my artwork is throughout my home.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do pieces where they'll all kind of fit together, meaning I'll work on them in the same season around the same time. Mm-hmm. And then other times they'll just be random.
That's so beautiful. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that we here. Okay, we're back on now. I hope that we give folks a good break, from the anxiety of the election today. Thank you again for joining me.
Great.
I can't wait to have you on again. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
And much love and joy. Bye.